Hello and thanks for joining us for our afternoon edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. It's 5 p.m. on Tuesday, April 6th here in Seoul, South Korea. It's wonderful having you with us today. Our starting point this afternoon is the coronavirus situation in South Korea. Health authorities here say a widely feared fourth wave of COVID-19 is not here yet, at least not for the time being. Officials added Tuesday that experts have predicted a fourth wave may occur between late March and April, but for now it hasn't happened. They say that if the country can vaccinate more than 10 million people by the end of June, South Korea might be able to contain the spread more effectively. The remarks come as South Korea reported 478 new COVID-19 cases over the past 24 hours. Around 400,000 undocumented immigrants in South Korea will be able to receive the COVID-19 vaccine without fear of deportation or any other penalties. The COVID-19 vaccination task force said Tuesday that the same standards for South Korean nationals will be applied to people in this country illegally, and they will not face any trouble from immigration. It was recently announced that foreign nationals in South Korea for more than 3 months could get the shot, but until now it wasn't clear if undocumented immigrants were included. Officials say non-Korean nationals who meet the requirements can get the shot starting the first week of April, when vaccinations for over 65s begin. North Korea says it won't be sending any athletes to this summer's Tokyo Olympics, the regime stating it has concerns over the spread of COVID-19 in Japan. It's disappointing for the South Korean government, as it had hoped to use the occasion to try and reinvigorate inter-Korean ties that have gone off the boil in recent years. Kim Ji-yeon with this report.
North Korea will not be taking part in the Tokyo Olympics in July this year because of coronavirus fears. A website run by the North Sports Ministry said its National Olympic Committee had decided not to participate in the Games to protect its athletes from the COVID-19 pandemic. This will be the first time North Korea has missed a Summer Olympics since it boycotted Seoul in 1988. It's a blow to South Korea's hopes of using the Games to engage with the North, as the sporting event this summer had been considered one of the last remaining chances to kickstart the stalled cross-border talks before the end of President Moon Jae-in's term next year. When South Korea hosted the Winter Games in Pyeongchang in 2018, the North Korean leader sent his sister Kim Yo-jong to head his delegation, and athletes from the two Koreas entered a joint team, which led to the initiation of diplomacy with South Korea and the U.S., including a series of historic summits. Just last month, Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga had also mentioned the possibility of Pyongyang-Tokyo talks if Kim Yo-jong visits Japan for the Games. Pyongyang's withdrawal from the Summer Games is also a setback for plans agreed by President Moon and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at a 2018 summit to pursue a joint Korea bid to host the 2032 Olympic Games. Responding to the North's decision, Seoul's Unification Ministry, in charge of inter-Korean affairs, expressed regret, saying it had hoped that the Olympics would provide an opportunity to foster peace and reconciliation between the two Koreas. Tokyo Olympics organizers said they were aware of news reports on North Korea's decision and would work with other countries for the success of the Games. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has appointed a former diplomat as U.S. coordinator for global COVID response and health security. He says Gail Smith, the former head of the U.S. Agency for International Development, has profound experience in tackling global health crises. Blinken added that under her leadership, the U.S. will ramp up its vaccine distribution to other countries as quickly as possible. Blinken also said the U.S. will not trade shots for political favors, calling it a matter of life and death. Reports say the U.S. is looking to boost overseas vaccine supplies to counter China and Russia's growing vaccine diplomacy. South Korea and the U.S. have reached an agreement in principle to hold the first summit between their leaders since the start of the Biden administration. No word yet on when it might take place. Lee Seung-jae with more.
Returning from a trip to the United States after the three-way meeting between its U.S. and Japanese counterparts, Seoul's National Security Advisor Seo Hoon on Monday told reporters that Seoul and Washington have reached an agreement in principle to hold a summit between South Korean President Moon Jae-in and U.S. President Joe Biden in Washington. While Seo stopped short of saying when the summit would take place, he said the two sides agreed to hold the summit as early as possible. The latest remark from the National Security Advisor also comes as an informed source here in South Korea said last week that the two leaders could hold their first face-to-face summit talks as early as this month. The two leaders plan to attend the G7 summit set to be held in Britain in June, which would set the stage for such a meeting. The source added that the two sides are currently in close consultation to arrange talks ahead of the G7 session. Another source said that a schedule for the summit is expected to be outlined after Seo returns to Seoul. With a little over a year left in the Moon administration, Seoul is looking to actively work with Washington to bring Pyongyang back to the negotiating table, with talks stalled since the Hanoi summit during the previous Trump administration. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Major global investment banks have raised their growth outlook for South Korea in 2021 amid growing hopes for a stronger than expected recovery, according to the Korea Center for International Finance Tuesday. As of the end of March, 9 major global investment banks, including Barclays, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, forecast Asia's fourth largest economy to grow 3.8% this year, up 0.2 percentage points from their median outlook in February. It marks the fourth straight month of upgrades by these institutions. In Asia, these banks had their outlooks raised for South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore and India, while Indonesia, Vietnam and the Philippines had theirs cut. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is calling for a global minimum corporate tax rate. Yellen said Monday that she's working with G20 nations to set the minimum rate on companies and urged other countries to support the initiative. She explained its adoption would stop companies relocating to other countries to take advantage of lower taxes. The global minimum tax would also offset any disadvantage American companies could face from President Biden's planned corporate tax hike from 21% to 28%. Well, that's all the news and weather we have for now. Stay tuned to Arirang TV. We'll be back with our next newscast at 7 p.m. Korea time. Until then, goodbye.